Gambit, the Cajun sensation. He is a lot of people's favorite X-Man, and he's certainly one of mine. But what's he like in alternate realities? After multiple bodily injuries, Gambit and the X-Men belonging to the alternate reality of Earth 1011 began to replace their bodies with cybernetic parts. Eventually, this led to their entire bodies being replaced after their original bodies aged beyond use. Each X-Man downloaded their consciousness into cybernetic bodies designed after their original costumes. Turns out, that isn't really a terribly great idea. Their cybernetic brains began to become overcrowded with too much information, which led to their mental faculties basically breaking, leaving only the goal to save mutant kind as their primary directive. Because of this, they became the X-Sentinels, and in a twist of what we are used to with Sentinels, they started to hunt humans, leaving only mutants safe. The new Sun is an alternate Gambit that most Gambit fans do know about, and that's because he is Remy who reached his full potential. His parents were paid by the government project Alpha 1 to have a child based on their genetic potential. The child was raised by Alpha 1 and trained in the use of his powers before he even had them, so that by the time they manifested, he was able to escape the facility where he was being held. New Sun had control over kinetic energy at a molecular level. After being taken in by John Luke, Gambit learned that he was intended to become the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy to create heaven on Earth. Unfortunately, when he charged up his power in a special ritual, a chain reaction was started that caused everyone on Earth beside himself to completely burn up. The new Sun traveled to other universes hoping to prevent the same thing from happening there. Coming to the main Marvel universe, he first attempted to create a new world where everyone would eventually be transported to using the main reality's Gambit to help. But when he learned that his plan wasn't possible, he tried to take out Gambit, transporting both of them to his destroyed homeworld before he became a threat to the main universe's Earth world as well. One version of Gambit who comes pretty much entirely out of left field is the one from Earth 6706. This Gambit is Remy Mackenzie, and he is the firstborn son of an alternate Afro-Atlantean Prince Namor Mackenzie and his wife, Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman. So already this Remy is wildly different. Obviously, he has the Atlantean abilities passed down by his father, but from his mother, he has gained telekinesis strong enough to allow himself to fly and to lift heavy steel beams, while also gaining psionic force fields, which he has used to create hover discs and even a psionic sword. When the exiles visited this Earth, Gambit was excited about the chance for adventure with them and he joined up, but after a few months with the team, he was called back home to take over his father's kingdom, as that version of Namor had been slain in battle. With the exiles' help, Gambit was able to defeat the rebels and he united his Earth peacefully under his own rule. Experimenting with attempts to recreate the Captain Britain Corps, Jamie Braddock created a pocket reality in which England was at war with Krakoa. The Betsy Braddock of this pocket reality had teamed up with the mutant team Excalibur, made up of Richter, Rogue, Jubilee, and of course, Gambit. Now, after escaping London with the help of Cape Pride, the group were confronted by Jamie Braddock, who revealed that he intended to make Betsy the first of a new Captain Britain Corps. Turns out that she was not a fan, and so a fight ensued. Now, after Betsy was struck down, this pocket reality then fractured again, and all four of the mutants from Excalibur were all offered an Amulet of Right, and all became versions of Captain Britain, creating a new Captain Britain Corps. X-Men: The End takes place 10 to 15 years in the future on an Earth known as Earth 41001. As you might guess from the name, the X-Men faced their end when several of their deadliest foes coordinated their attacks on them. Gambit and Rogue in this world had been running the occasional mission for the X-Men, but were still apart from them, living as a married couple and raising their two children, Oliver and Rebecca. Now, one of the villains, Mr. Sinister, had also put a target on these two kids, and in order to protect both his children and those of Cyclops and Emma Frost, Gambit took them kids and brought them to Sinister himself. This is when Sinister dropped the bombshell that Gambit was actually the third Summers brother, as Mr. Sinister had created him years ago by mixing some of Cyclops' DNA with his own to act as the ultimate weapon against the mutant apocalypse. That's a lot to lay on a guy, and when Rogue lost her life against Sinister's forces, Gambit completely snapped, turned on Sinister together with Mystique, and once the villain was laid low, he actually took Sinister's place to try and undo some of the damage that he had done. Formerly an X-Men and good friend of their leader, Magneto, in the Age of Apocalypse reality, this Gambit left the team pretty heartbroken when Rogue fell for the wrinkly old Magneto. Gambit founded his own team, the Externals, and found some comfort and romance romance with the mutant Lila Cheney. Eventually, Magneto called on Gambit's help specifically because of Remy's teleporting girlfriend, Lila. Using Lila's power, Gambit and his team travel across the galaxy to steal a piece of the Macron crystal. But in order to take from the crystal, Gambit apparently had to sacrifice the love that he felt for Rogue and was granted a shard of the crystal. Having succeeded in their mission, the Externals returned to Earth only to be betrayed by one of their own. Now, after Apocalypse's defeat, Remy joined the X-Men to help them rebuild again. And for about a decade, Earth prospered. Eventually though, a reborn Apocalypse re-established his world order, and Gambit passed away fighting his minions to buy his true love, Rogue, and her fellow X-Men enough time to escape. What a roller coaster of emotion. In the regular Earth 616 reality, after the X-Men learned of Gambit's involvement in the mutant massacre, they felt pretty betrayed. But still, they eventually forgave their teammate. But what if they didn't? In the reality shown in What If Volume 1, number 106, the revelation of his involvement drove a huge wedge between the X-Men and Gambit, with the founding member Archangel, formerly Angel, especially having a whole lot of hatred for the Cajun. It's kind of understandable though, since the mutant massacre is what caused Warren to first ever lose his wings. Eventually, Archangel hunted Gambit down and challenged him to a duel to the death, except during the fight, Remy stopped fighting back, correctly guessing that Archangel would realize that taking Remy's life wouldn't really solve anything. But no one thought about the mutant Marrow. She very much felt otherwise and took Gambit down, ramming one of her bone daggers into his chest. With his dying breath, Remy basically asked the X-Men to forgive her and end the cycle of violence. In the world of Marvel Noir, superheroes don't really exist in the same way they do on Earth 616. There are very few who have legit superpowers, and the mutants who normally make up the X-Men are actually a group of sociopathic teenagers recruited by discredited psychiatrist Charles Xavier, who ran the Xavier School for Exceptionally Wayward Youth in Westchester, New York in 1937. In this world, Gambit is just Remy LeBeau, an ally of Thomas Holloway, the vigilante known as Angel, and he is also the owner of the Creole Club, a casino and a nightclub. He was also a pretty bad dude and was not above resorting to physical altercations in order to retrieve his debts, which was actually his downfall. Remy had been harassing Wanda Magnus over unpaid debts, and that got him sent to the pearly gates by a vengeful Peter Magnus in retaliation. And in case you didn't pick up on it, that is Wanda and Pietro Maximoff of the Noir reality. In another alternate reality though, coming to us in the X-Men Forever world of Earth 161, the X-Men found their world forever change, with members dropping in and out and some even swapping their powers. One constant in all of that was Gambit, who turned into one of the group's most reliable mainstays. This version of the Cajun sensation was actually named Remy Picard instead of LeBeau. This version of Gambit replaced his flashy costume with dark shades, a black suit, a red shirt, and a tie. Also, in this world, instead of starting a relationship with Rogue, Jean-Luc Picard Jr. had a relationship with Kitty Pryde. And last up today, we end with a mystery. In the alternate future known as the XSE future, which is the timeline that the mutant Bishop comes from, there was an elderly man named LeBeau, who was also known as the Witness. The Witness was called that because he was said to have been the last person to have ever seen the X-Men before they were wiped out. Shortly after Bishop came to the present time, back in the day, he recognized Earth 616 Gambit as the same man, only around 60 to 80 years younger. That on its own is pretty interesting, but later on, the Witness also made an appearance in the present day, and he also revealed that he existed simultaneously in all timelines at once. But this leaves the mystery of who the Witness, aka LeBeau, really is. It could be that at some point Gambit's powers evolve into him becoming the Witness, or maybe the Witness is Gambit's future offspring. What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below, because that's all she wrote. Thank you guys so much for watching today on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam Andrews. I'll catch you on the flippy flop, so stay safe and peace out, nerds.